Chapter 4. Stationed in the hallway, outside Lucinda's room, Candace and Sheriff William had a conversation. "Sorry about Yoshi. He really doesn't like cops," the Major apologetically said. Carrying on their wordy back and forth, William remarked, "He's strong for a little guy." Chuckling, Candace said, "You have no idea." Feeling that he had used enough small talk, William attempted to ask a needed question. Why would a Navy major be so deep in a war zone? Disclosing their true purpose, Candace stated, "We're here to end the war." Consumed with glee at the thought of the deadly continual war around him on a daily basis coming to an end, William offered, "How can I help?" Astounded, Candace exclaimed, "For real? You're not just playing with us?" "Missy, I don't mess around when I say something like that," he harshly resounded. Placing her hands up, Candace vocalized, "Okay, I get it." Accepting, Crawford predominantly spoke. "I'll speak with my people and mobilize my men. It may take some time, but I will come back when we're ready." Sprinting away, he disappeared behind two swinging hall doors. Rubbing her eyes from the stress of talking to William for a prolonged amount of time, she re-entered Lucinda's room. Around her, guard dogs Vigo, Kin, and Yoshi sat in a wooden captain's chair. Instantly, they turned to her in alarm. She immediately spoke. "Calm down, it's me." Leaning back, Yoshi accosted in an Irish accent. "So, how was your words with William?" Pointing at Street Rat in a slight scolding act, she perturbedly announced, "And you? I had to flirt with him for 40 minutes just so he wouldn't toss our asses out of here." Butting in, Kin falsely added, "Yeah, your hand hurt his face." Holding face, Vigo interjected, "What's our plan now?" Flicking her hair back as if to relax, Candace hopelessly answered, "Until our new leader comes to, stuck is what we are." Putting his feet up on the edge of the bed, Vigo questioned, "When will that be?" Sitting on the arm of Yoshi's chair, the Major divulged, "If they can get the tissue replicator online, an hour. If not, she'll heal in 4 months." Standing, Yoshi helpfully remarked, "I'll see if I can help them fix it so we can leave." "Yeah, I can't imagine staying in a place that's 10 times the size of our old home." "No." Kin laughed, exiting the room in just his closest friend, adding, "Ah, what the hell." The cell that was imprisoning Rommel was unlike any county jail of our time. Bulletproof windows made up the cell's walls. Holes in the floor rushed in cool, breathable air. There appeared to be no way out. His weapons were gone. The kind people he hurt took them to protect themselves. The 30 by 30-foot cell that he was in was the only one they had in the city. He was conveniently placed right next to William Crawford's office, allowing anyone inside to look up and control the situation immediately. The sheriff was not at his desk. Because of his words to Candace, he left the female deputy, Shelley. She had her head down, doing her boss's forgotten reports, not wanting him to get in trouble. Her long black curly hair covered Rommel's place in the cell from view. Moving to the front of the glass wall facing her, he spoke, loud enough for her to hear. "Hey, do I get out on good behavior?" he asked. Unbeknownst to him, one of the surgeons Rommel put in intensive care was her cousin, Viv. Flipping back her hair with one hand, she dropped her pen and drew her gun. Backing up, Rommel quickly spoke. "You have no need to do that." Standing in venting emotion, Shelley walked to the glass. Faking his calm, he said, "What are you going to do? This is bulletproof." Pulling back her Colt DA-38 revolver's hammer, the deputy vexed, "You're a smart boy. I bet you've even heard of Hollow Point Drowns. Thinking that his plan to improve his New World Order must happen, Ramel replied with something he wished he didn't. What do you want me to do for you not to kill me? Life in such a place as this, being the only law in the city, many of William's officers turned into evil people. Removing her keys, Shelley definitely projected. Do you have any idea how lonely nights get up here for a young woman? Is she saying what I think she is? Ramel thought to himself. Was a female guard acting as a deprived male officer? Sliding her key in Ramel's cell hole, Shelley controllingly stated, You do it right. You'll be free. Keeping her weapon on him, she opened the sliding door. She devilishly smirked. Waving her gun up and down, she curtly demanded, Let's see it. Undoing his belt, he nervously told her, It's stuck. Pushing the Colt's muzzle up against his skull, she slyly said while she pulled out her pocket knife, Don't move. You wouldn't want anything to happen. In his mind, the first lieutenant strongly thought, When this bitch takes this gun off me, I'm gonna fucking kill her. Finishing with his belt, she started on his fly, and then she began to kiss him. Having his fly completely down, now Shelley used her gun to push his pants off. Seeing what he had, she monstrously muttered, Not bad. Forcing pressure on his temple, she ordered, Eat me, like the dog you are. Starting to get down, Ramel felt her release an amount of force on his head. Got ya, he exclaimed, tackling her to the cell's floor. Losing the gun in the struggle, Shelley hit him in the ribs, causing him to lose his grip on her gun. Hurrying to his feet, he did up his pants. She scrambled for her gun. Hauling ass past her, he slammed the cell door shut. He did this at the moment she picked up her Colt that she had carelessly dropped. Huffing it to the room's exit, he abruptly found that Shelley was telling the truth about her weapons rounds. Behind him, then in front of him, 2 hollow points speedily missed him, making him dive out of the holding room's doors. Following the trail of a terrible bus driver, Keyman came upon Ray's body. He had died 12 hours ago from the arrows in him, mainly the one in his forehead. The projectiles came from where, she hadn't determined. Blinking her robotic eye, she activated its physics program. Astonishingly fast, the system rebuilt the moment of Ray's death. Now, she knew who fired the shots. Blinking the eye to turn it off, Keyman, Deserring, spoke. A hidden attacker? Why? Starting off once more at full speed, she contemplated. Who was in that bus? Why was he shot? Who did that? And, with arrows? Who still uses a bow these days? What's going on here? Finalizing the rewiring of the tissue reconstructor, Yoshi pushed the panel back in. Some oil, as well as grime, accumulated on his face from fixing the internal structure. You're almost done, William proudly said to Street Rat. Thank God, huh? He remarked when he rolled his eyes. Remembering his last tussle with Yoshi, Crawford took it upon himself to tell him the news before Candace. You'll have full clearance on your trip into the heaviest parts of the mutated monsters. Oh yeah, I'm going with your team, he continued to say when he exited. Hitting the side of the machine using his palm, our assassin yelled, That's gonna be your fucking head. Diving back into the reconstructed circuits, Yoshi seemed more determined than ever. Racing down the hall, Ramel, leaping, punched William in the sheriff's blind side, knocking him unconscious. His skull dented the white wall. He saw Yoshi hard at work on the tissue reconstructor. Bursting into the room Street Rat was in through the hospital doors, the first lieutenant sounded off. We've got to get the fuck out of here. Preoccupied, Yoshi stated. Why would that be? Weren't you in holding? Sporadically, he answered. Some crazy bitch with a gun tried to rape me. Still angry about having to see William for X amount of days, Yoshi, disregarding, remarked, He gets kinky sex, and I've got to deal with some damn cop. Pausing for a moment to ponder, the first lieutenant considered. Is he a big guy with red hair? I just knocked him out then. Poking his head up, Yoshi joked. Join the club. Closing the final hatch, he pleasurably exclaimed, Done. Standing, he began to inform him. Now we can fix up your ex-wife and go. As if his ears had been touched by ode to joy, Ramel calmed. She's hurt? Ramel snidely asked. Venturing out of the small room, Street Rat felt a thick rubber wire around his throat. At his back, Ramel became a hit-manish attacker, evilly holding steady. Nailing Ramel in the ribs, he crudely swung back his head, smashing into his attacker's face. Swelling in pain, he released Yoshi and snapped his nose back in place. Tearing the cord from his neck, the assassin turned to face his attacker. Besides the blood running from his nose, Ramel methodically stated, You know, I still have to kill you. Slipping to a back stance, Ramel's opponent vengefully enjoyed. Oh, I am gonna get you. Being a warrior of the Demo, Yoshi, his enemy, roared forth to fight. Charging towards one another, the ex-hawk let loose a fist in the form of a right cross. Snatching the hand that would connect, he rang his bell haymaker style. Ramel was a technical fighter, and Yoshi hitting him was what he needed. Now that he was so close, the first lieutenant could show why, in military kendo circles, he was known as the shining demon of the fist. Twisting his wrist away from Yoshi's, he forced his, then rained forth a barrage of open-handed strikes. Blocking 6 of the attacks, Street Rat felt the last 2 glance his chest. Stepping back from our assassin, he proudly reputed, It's over. Clutching his heart, Yoshi fell to his knees. How? He choking asked. I've learned a few killing strikes in my time. This is called Sarobatsu, he said in a chilly fashion. Translating before he crumpled to the floor, Yoshi spoke. Departing punishment. Going back to the hallway, Ramel saw Shelley attempting to check if William was okay. Her eyes hadn't found him yet. The thing was, they never would. I don't have to tell you how he killed her, but it was quick. He now had a gun and rushed to his ex-wife's room. To inform you why Ramel did so, one would expose a form of all men. The saviour, the child and the adult. Years of lost time shown for your enjoyment. We must start at the day Lucinda embarrassed him in front of his military peers. Compared to now, that was a pleasurable time frame. Even though the world was in the midst of a world war, it was at least men fighting men. Humanity would somehow live on. Seated at a train bench outside the main combatant arena, Lucinda was alone, in a sweat-soaked back room. She had taped her hands by herself. She also did her feet. Hawk had to do such, because every trainer was not permitted to help a new recruit. They all backed the reigning champion to the end. The final seconds in time in front of Lucinda's match would always be entombed deep in the depths of her mind. Right next to her first boyfriend and her last taste of life away from chasing death. Moving quietly into the room, 3-star General, at the time, Atlas Cunningham, calmly spoke. Hey, Hawk, you're up. She was dressed from head to toe in black Muay Thai gear. Standing up, Lucinda angrily said, You better be ready, bitch. Kid, Cunningham continued, don't lose. There are some of us who want you to win. Grinning, she vaguely spouted, Then you'll be happy. Heading out of the room into the boxing ring's crowd, the lieutenant did not hear Atlas say, Good luck. She was the first to enter the 30,000-seat stadium area. Thousands yelled and cheered at the sight of her. A rookie that just a month ago in the field accidentally cost another soldier his life. What would she muster here? the once highly esteemed captain entered to the praise of the crowd. He appeared very overly dressed, wearing the title of champion, along with fighting garb covered in endorsements. These made his red attire seem, well, dumb. He appeared more like a street sign than a combatant. Rommel wore a suit which falsely deceived in what was depicted of his muscles because of padding. Hopping in the ring with her, he spun around as if he owned the place. Following them in, Atlas was holding a microphone. "I'd like to invite you all to the 200th match of the Open Fist competition," he loudly said. "In red, we have the champion, Captain Rommel, the undefeated Hawk. In black, we have the warrior of Cinder, Lucinda Hawk," he proudly announced. Leaving the ring, Cunningham motioned for the match to commence. Ding, ding. The end of Rommel was about to happen. Overzealously, he slapped his then-wife in the face. He disgustingly said, "I have already won." From this slap, her bottom lip dripped blood. Infuriated, Lucinda telegraphed his next swing another foolish slap. Taking it, she laughed. Unbeknownst to him, the lieutenant was holding his other hand long enough to attack. Breaking his arm, she disobeyed the fight's rules. She then struck with a closed fist. One after another, Lucinda hit him square dead in the face. It took 27 rapid punches to force him to the mat, yet each one she threw, she loved. When he laid on his back, she bent down to her hubby's left ear, and she whispered, "One light goes out, and another becomes brighter." Ringing the bell, his trainer pulled him from the floor. Lucinda's party that night seemed as if it would never end. She played him, acted depressed for weeks, and intentionally scored low on all of her physical tests for that year, ranking her weaker than him, to the extent of taking candy off a sleeping newborn, which is why he openly toyed with her. On that night as well, happened to be the first time he met 01. Zero had some leave on the base. He was using it to walk the streets of Man. Here, the reason for all this would be explained. Completely by his lonesome, Rommel saw Zero's general store. Wounded, he stalked 01 for 2 blocks in turn, conserving a plan. "Sir," he called to Zero. Stopping, he turned, seeing a regular human. Unhappily, Zero went towards him. "Yes?" he asked when he reached Rommel, knowing well who he was. Rommel vindictively talked to him of his loss, to his, then his wife. Then he informed Zero of an under-the-table deal to kill his brothers and sisters. In disbelief, Zero tried to go, but deep down, he knew it was true. The higher-ups always feared him. They always would. For those who accumulated power shrill at the loss of it. "What do you propose?" he inquired, while walking alongside one another. Rommel deferently stated, "We tricked the world." Going down a side street, he spoke once more. "I use my clearance to mistakenly let them out. You get caught. Years from then, when it's time, I free you." Quickening his pace, Zero, disregarding, commented, "What guarantee do I have?" Keeping up with him, he said, "My hate is your guarantee." If this was true, Zero couldn't turn Rommel Hawk down. "Fine," he told him. Journeying in different directions, the two of them would never speak again. These few minutes had torn away at the world. How long all this would take was never a factor. It never was. Shortly after, the demoted captain visited a young new senator named Athena Olympia. For what he did for her in the years to come, Athena soon became president. The world was his. The thing was, though, no one knew it. Waiting in her presidential office, Olympia looked over an old bill for healthcare, something that even now had problems passing. Any amount she helped pass would be revised by a stronger commander-in-chief or a more understanding people. Her resolute desk, sat at by many great men of all different views as well as nationalities, they had set the bar high for her to reach. Dropping the bill on the desk, Athena gazed off towards the Oval Office's illustrious wooden doors. Staring back at her, their existence reminding Olympia of her deal with Rommel. Outside these walls, on the entering stairs, where it took place. In days of old, protesters yelled against foreseen oppression. Rommel, in his own way, did the same. This was shortly after his meeting with Zero. He was shadowing young, impressionable government officials. Olympia was one of the 6 he followed. At the time, he had been MIA for 2 weeks. In his mind, the MPs were everywhere. Dressed in an aqua skirt and shirt combination, Athena returned from her lunch at the time he expected. Exiting the dark gloom of a tree on the sidewalk, a wanted man stepped out behind her. Matching her walking speed, he slid a 3x2 note in her purse. He quickly then left. The note she would later find at home, as she emptied her old purse to fill her new one she had acquired that day, which Rommel knew. At her bedside, Athena read it. I know you want to be more than just a simple public servant. See me in the Oval Office at 3 p.m. She couldn't believe it. From the instant she opened her eyes to breakfast, first meeting, second, third, fourth, lunch, it tugged at her. Would someone be there, or was this a test from security? Ambition backed her to go. Right before anyone would miss her, Olympia hid in the bathroom till 2:56. Quietly sneaking out, she rushed across the hard floor, slipped in the doors, to destiny. Glancing to and fro, finding nothing. Thought so, she said out loud. Spinning on her heel, Athena saw Rommel leaning on the door behind her. So, you found my note, he secretly said. Jumping at first, she started. What the hell? You can't leap out at people like that. Covering her mouth, he softly spoke. Quiet is good for these types of things. Moving her hand from her lips, she whispered, Sorry, what's going on? Venturing past her to the president's chair, he mouthed the words, Come here. Cautiously going to him, the first lieutenant pulled the seat out. She thought so plainly, consumed in the moment. Sitting down in the chair of the then president, Athena looked at the doors she now stared at in the now, reliving the moment. This desk, these papers, this country, this world could be yours, he gently told her. Answering, How? Olympia asked. Just go to the file room and get 3 presidential forms. 1, military re-level, mark it for 2045. Next, an election form. Lastly, an ejection of a scientific experiment form. All this he told her. His words kissed her neck. Turning her head, she brashly said, There'll be agents everywhere. People here know me. No. Starting to get up, Athena continued. No way. Not gonna happen. There won't be anyone there, he softly announced. How? She asked disbelievingly. Hastily leaving, Rommel spoke. I made this happen. Just go. Getting up from the seat he gifted her, she went in tow. He shuffled the 3 pages into a few of his shadowed praise legal files, and things went off insidiously. Now you know the child, the adult, and the saviour. Their parts have not yet changed, but some have yet begun to play. Adults are often misconstrued as to be in control, like our heedless conspirator Rommel. Firing 2 rounds into nuisances that were simply in his way, the first lieutenant entered the hospital ward. Nodding on and off, Vigo heard the gunshots. Startled, awake, Vigo woke up Kin along with Candace. "Something's going down," he loudly informed them. "What?" Kin asked, in the process of rubbing his eyes. Doing the same, Candace pulled her gun, checking his SMGs. Vigo, agitated, said, "Gunshots." Retrieving his bayonet, Kin moved to the door, commenting, "Shit." "Mutates?" Candace wondered. "Don't know," Vigo responded as he backed up his blade-wielding teammate. Poking his head into the hole, itchy trigger fingers saw Ramel walking down the ward, holding a drawn Colt. Pulling his head back, he then told them, "It's Ramel. He's armed." Poking his head out once more, precisely as the Major yelled, "Don't!" he took one right to the dome. Falling abruptly, Kin's bayonet bounced on the floor, putting a snuffer on his candle. Unleashing 2 of his SMGs at the wall, leading to the hole, Vigo yelled in anger. Sprinting towards the rounds, Ramel baseball slid under the bullets, flying at him. Crouching, she ran to the door, Candace readied to fire. Seeing what looked to be a shoulder, Ramel shot. Slamming into the door, a round in her shoulder, the Major shot 2 of her own. Amazingly, he rolled 3 feet to the left, dodging both blasts. The pain in Candace's arm forced her to drop her gun. Dashing into the room, she flung the door shut. Vigo fired beside her. Candace went to Yoshi's highlight reel. "You okay?" Vigo called to her. Breathing according to the action she was taking, she remarked, "My shoulder." Grabbing to different SMGs on his chest, he lit up the door, calling out, "You fucker!" Shooting there was giving away his position, because Vigo's target had been gone from that spot. Ramel moved to a place Vigo had already fired, knowing his next round wouldn't be there. 2 shots remained in Shelley's Colt, which Ramel violently stole from her. Shoving his gun's nozzle in one of Vigo's holes in the wall, the first lieutenant pulled the trigger. At the same time, he moved the gun to the left, towards Vigo, Candace and Lucinda. One of his bullets hit the wall inches from Lucinda, the others sunk right in Vigo's knees, sending him to the floor. Yelling in sudden agony, he was bleeding bad. Understanding her teammate was down, Candace discharged Yoshi's Gatling gun on everything she could see. Perceiving the spinning of the weapon's firing system before it went off, Ramel pitched his acquired handgun and bolted to the exit of the hospital ward. Stopping when the highlight reel ran out of deadly projectiles, Candace dropped it to hold her shoulder wound. The wall of the room in front of her had fallen asunder via her brash thinking. The devastation of over 1,000 rounds was bold-faced, cutting the area to cascaded bits. Vengefully shoving open the hospital doors, Ramel power-walked down the ruined passage, possessed by rage and madness. Witnessing his finger, Candace sadly remarked, "You couldn't have." Getting a complete view of him, she saw that he was covered in dust, wall plaster, as well as many other powdery materials. Smashing through the collapsing doorway, he cruelly snatched her bottom jaw. "Stop!" she attempted to say. "No!" he evilly yelled. Grasping his leg, Vigo sounded, "Fight me, you filthy bastard!" Kicking Vigo in the stomach, the first lieutenant pushed Candace to the floor. "You're all going to die," he happily said. "No, you fucking won't," all heard Yoshi reply. Flinching, he met a foot from a mastered snapping back kick. Taking a step back, Ramel fell back into a shabby fighting stance. "Come on, then," he loutishly said. In this fight, all deadly affairs would be decided in one hit. Samurai, Spartan, ninja, Green Beret, Navy SEALs, Athenians, Trojans, every warrior of time and space look upon final nods in kind. Flowing his weight to his right side, which was closely behind his left, Yoshi opened his opposite hand as if it was holding a cup. Extending that arm as well, he forced his body over the earth, core perfectly level to the ground. Ex-Hawk, on the other hand, clenched his fist, forming a claw. Their eyes cold. Ice would freeze at their soulful gaze. Releasing a roar of ignition, both attacked. Yoshi jolted forward, his hand hammer-fisted halfway through the moment, impacting Romel's heart. His enemy's fingertips were merely 7 millimeters away from the center of Street Rat's sternum. He halted where he stood. He had died when Yoshi connected. Romel's body still stood, statuesquely, painting of victories moralis, depicting such irrelevant simplicity. Groaning, Vigo agitatedly let forth, "What the fuck took you so long?" Helping Candace up, Yoshi jokingly said, "Sorry, I was almost dead." Standing, she concernedly asked, "How could he get you?" Leaning down to Vigo's bleeding knee, he pressed a few pressure points, stopping the bleeding. "He hit me with an attack that overpumps the heart till burst," he told them. Wincing to sit, Vigo, wishfully thinking, spoke. "You use some ancient breathing technique to calm yourself down, right?" Looking at Ken, our assassin revealed, "The fool left me in a room with a defibrillator." Touching his forearm, Candace apologetically voiced, "My condolences, Yoshi. No one knew him like you. You both served in the SEALs together. I know he saved your life a bunch of times." Keeping his eyes steady, he strongly decreed, "Warriors disappear when they die. That's what awaits us all." Wanting to fix her and Vigo's wounds, Candace ordered, "Move us to the tissue." Not being able to finish her sentence, the Major lost consciousness. Catching her, Street Rat put pressure on her gushing bullet hole, rushing her to the reconstructor. Mumbling to a sleeping Lucinda, Vigo stated, "I'll just stay here with Sleeping Beauty. No problem." Tearing off the sleeve of his shirt, he made a tourniquet, tightened it around the knee, he thought to himself. Leaving now, one would be wise to remember the statuesque snake. A yellow school bus was one of the last things Keeman thought she'd see on her path to finding her target. Blinking her cybernetic eye, Keeman turned it on. The eye gifted many different possibilities of viewing the world. Blinking twice to activate the eye's infrared sequence, she could easily see dying heat from the engine as it cooled down. Heat was coming from the ruined hospital's interior. Why, she wondered. Upon her belt were 10 throwing stars, along with her last resort, a German Luger. The Luger and the stars had been softly modified to her body type, gifting her a better shot when affairs were dire. She would not use these weapons now. Her shoulder sword was enough. It was different than many swords of its time. This blade, unlike things of this war, had been upgraded to be more high-tech than steel age. The melee weapon consisted of a great deal of high-grade metals, forged at optimal level, creating a powerful deathbringer. Removing the bladeless hilt from her left shoulder, Keeman began to travel to the hospital's broken windows. Getting to these windows, she realized that all, except one on the second floor, was conveniently concealed bulletproof glass. "People in the heart of the hot zone," she said, astonished. Blinking, her change of vision went back to the human sight she was happy she still had. Disobeying protocol, she turned off her mission's voice recording system with a twist of her right wrist. Walking up to the school bus's hood, Keeman muttered, "I can understand that I'm doing this for you again, Hawk." On the side of a rock face in the Himalayas 8 years ago. At that time, Keeman only had 3 cybernetic implants, her legs plus her right arm, which at this moment was assisting her greatly. If not for them, she would have fallen off the cliff face. The surface of the rock was consumed by jagged edges, accompanying vast slippery rocks. She was using her one fleshy hand to keep herself stable. It was just 20 feet to the landing, which Keeman happily moved to. Her objective for the day was to hunt down 2 diamond skins that broke past the Mars squadron. Unknown to her, the squad had sent 2 rookies to handle this in-house. These new troops drugged their way across the vast wasteland, 3 hours before Keeman could even make it to the upper paths. Pulling herself up, finally, on hard, soft, freezing snow, Keeman shivered to say, Cold, 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 cold. Her anger in the last cold, endlessly throughout the openness of the Himalayas. Crunch after crunch, she walked to her mission objective, which she wished she was at and out of the chilly wasteland. On the horizon, Keeman began to see the city of Kashmir, where the target was. The city was ill to her, compared to its awe-inspiring name. She expected a city of joy, sated by loveliness. Simply as it was, Keeman could do her job easily. "What dumbass sends me into a massively infected area," she said aloud. Firing in retreat, Private James fell back alongside a young Lucinda Hawke. Sprinting past him, she hurried to what they were ordered to do here. She was not shooting because she now fumbled through a computer 2 streets from James. They had been sent to Kashmir by her lying husband to copy as much as possible till evac. Yelling to her, "Let's go!" James ran to her location. Taking a memory stick from the drive, Lucinda snatched her assault rifle. She followed him. Hundreds of different creatures hunted them, many of them they could glance moving right behind them. "You got them?" James asked expediently. Pushing the memory stick in her back pocket, Hawke remarked, "Just one more." Spinning to the left, James shot behind him, dropping 2 diamond skins. Holding his position, he dished, "Go for it!" Not wanting to go, she tried to speak. Honour bared into her, forcing her to bear it. Minutes later, 6 blocks away, in a bank, Lucinda switched on the vault console. What she would see would change her so much. Words in blue came up on the screen. Unit 1, Diamond Skin. Unit 2, Viper. Unit 3, M-Muscle. Unit 4, Venom Parasite. Disobeying direct orders from her beloved, like she did when they were dating. Grabbing the mouse, Hawke clicked on the diamond skins and a file opened. Date of creation, it read, 2020. What? Terror-stricken, she divulged. "We made them?" The more she read, the more she clicked on, and the more she questioned her hope in the army. Downloading the files, she moved to the vault. Above the bronze door were words in Urdu, then English. Test lab of F2 unit. Searching the door, she found a silver number plate with numbers 1 to 9. Putting her right hand's blue liquidly glove on the plate, she calmly waited. Her glove was flexible, moving from wrist to palm, then fingertips. The blue watery substance was silver, ionized, in large amounts of fluxing electrons. The National Army used them to disrupt doors, locks, computers, TVs, and, one time, on a slot machine. But no one's allowed to talk about that. In a matter of seconds, the door cracked open. The smell of gauze and sterilization oozed from the vault. Filling her nostrils, it made her feel sick. Holding her rifle at the ready, Lucinda pulled open the big door, using a gown. Beyond, she saw what turns rookies into grizzled veterans. Unimaginable mutations. On cold silver slabs were 10 misused, discarded humans. Hawke couldn't tell if they'd been men or women, though none of them was breathing. Lowering her weapon, Lucinda walked into the gory room. At the other end was a glass tank of red water, dark to the onlooker who only witnessed the crimson. Labouring to keep the sea of slabs out of her mind, she was compelled to the tank. Her ungloved hand reached for it, in a daring transformation. A sting of emotional pain dug at her to the soul, damaging the part of her that was warm, replacing it with a stone, chilly heart. The idea that people could be used in such a way ate at her. Touching the clear glass tank, the bright lights of the room forced her to squint. In the squint, Lucinda watched a person at the bottom. The man seemed untouched. Allowing her eyes to do so once more, she stated a fact. It's a person. Prying open the heavy tank's hatch, using the butt of her rifle, Hawke soon saw that the water was blood. Jumping back, she aimed her weapon at the ajar lid. Moving a bird talon from the clear tank and into view, this being was a human no longer. Then the next, a bear claw intimidatingly shined off the ceiling's ill lighting. Respectfully retreating, Lucinda Hawke expediently pushed the bronze vault door shut. By this time, Keeman had begun to see scores of mutated creatures chasing a lone man down an abandoned street. On the rooftop over 50 feet from him, Keeman looked on while she rushed to his aid. Sliding belly first across a rusted car's hood, James rolled onto the black tar. Misconstruing his actions, 2 diamond skins smashed into the vehicle's left side window because their transformation, the ingenuity of simple glass, was unfeasible to them. Hopping to his feet, he sprinted past the bank where his comrade quickly exited. Yelling, "Get to the LZ!" he fired behind him. "Got ya," she called back. Ready to take her first in-combat shot, Lucinda was interrupted. "There's no time for that now. Go!" his faraway voice told her. "Damn," she remarked, running after him. In front of her, she saw that James had stopped. Her weapon raised, her eyes immediately understood why he did. Keeman agitatedly stood before them. Leaping from a beat-up Silverado, a diamond skin lunged towards Lucinda. Lifting her right hand, Keeman changed it to a double-barreled long rifle's front. Needless to say, she made a smear of their transgressions. Effortlessly transforming her hand back, she questioned, "You think our CO would leave you 2 rookies to do this mission? You get the dogs, Hawk?" But again, James told her, "You bitch! If you got here on time, we'd be done already." Shaking her head at the new arrival, as well as her teammate, she conducted herself in the fashion she always did. Lucinda came to terms with the truth of the matter. This was a strange way they got along. "She's just mad that you're first in, and she is support," Hawk interjected. Tossing aside Lucinda's statement, Keeman joked, "You're full of it." Smirking, James went around to her LZ. Without turning, Keeman spoke. "Don't go that way." Steadied by her words, he calmly inquired, "Why?" Hanging on his nerves, she admitted, "I wasn't late. I scouted ahead." Moving in between them as their backs faced each other, Hawk said, "So?" Looking to James, Keeman informed them, "At the landing zone there's an egg." Letting out a laugh, he said, "Oh, an egg." Joining in, Lucinda cracked, "Thanks, we haven't eaten yet." Indifferent to their words, Keeman commented, "Funny, you 2. HQ wants us to take a look. That's why they changed the LZ." Hot-footing it, the 3 of them rushed through the city. Laying over a car, a Viper, and many diamond skins that covered the ground, it was strange to them, so much death. Slowing to a crawl, they saw a very large egg. Black in colour, the egg began to crack open. Bursting into thousands of fragments, the shell pieces floated in the air all around them. In its place, a red 16-foot male lion. The animal's mane was proud and full, giving an air of presence. Speechless at the spectacle, they didn't dare agitate the beast. He had to be 2,000 pounds at least. His blues peered around. Finding Lucinda, the lion stared at her. Sniffing in her direction, he walked to her. His gait was so fast that the lion reached her in 2 steps. Locking gaze, both of their peepers glowed silver. Instantly, all the creatures laying down perked up like puppets. Puppets on invisible strings that lifted them. They were slumped at their shoulders. Struck, the 2 not mind-locked kept their guns down in abstraction to what they wished to do. "I leave this in your mind when you need me," Lucinda heard a loving voice. "How? No. What are you?" Hawk asked. "I am 0, and you are 1, the lion stated. Going to its egg in a wide arcing turn, the red lion went to where it came to in the world. Shells from the black egg completely re-indoctrinate into its position, shutting. Fully, the egg was unburst. "Go life to be stillborn shall come," she lastly heard. Shoving Lucinda to the ground, Keeman killed 2 flesh-percolating once vipers. Her shoulder sword ejected death-defying gas. The blade pushed anything away from its fine edge, forcing the Met to evacuate. Picking herself up to her elbows, she saw James busting caps. Switching to his Glock, headshots rang out. Blasting, he made no sounds. Her disoriented senses could only watch. Coherently, James was having an ace of a day. One bit the nozzle of his gun. He needed a millisecond to get what was left of the mutate's head from his Glock slide. James! Humans! Lucinda fought to connect her intent to her hands. Men and women believe a great fight is a prolonged, one-on-one accosting battle of mind, following body. In the heat of real life, the war moment is seconds. Some say existence freezes. There is no time stop. It's the brain. The power of the mind, injected with adrenaline of the body, sends one into overdrive. The OK Corral shootout lasted 30 seconds. In those moments, 30 rounds accosted the air. So much in a short time. Hawk felt this power. She handled her rifle and fired at the 3 swarming him. The gun aimed to save James. The sound of the bullets firing, pins sparking, ran out. No projectiles left the barrel of the weapon. Blanks, meant to be a joke, were in the clip. Colliding with James, the 3 diamond skins tackled him to the ground. They held him down, and the viper then spewed acid out of its mouth onto James. Screaming in horrific pain, he quickly melted into a slug puddle of decayed flesh. Yanking Lucinda off the pavement, Keeman lifted her. In turn, they ran. The 2 women could do nothing to help James. Hawk couldn't understand blanks being slotted in her gun. Thinking back, her husband handed her an auto rifle when they issued their gear to the rookies. Her man even loaded a clip for her and wished her luck. Cutting down all in their path, Keeman led them to the LZ, where a fully manned helicopter waited. Seeing it, Lucinda called to them. "Start it up!" Coming back to herself, Keeman moved into the hospital, igniting her gas blade as she did. She would find